So what's the hardest thing you had to learn as a writer? Or what are some of the milestones that you had to hit along the way?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I think that the best thing to know is that you don't know those milestones beforehand. Like you don't know how long it's going to be. You don't know what you're going to have to learn. You don't know what you're going to have to go through beforehand. Going in blind is pretty great. For me, patience. I'm kind of a seize the day personality. I get in there and I go to work and I get it done. And everything about writing is a patience game. And I used to think it was funny to be like, oh, like I'm not patient at all. Ha ha ha. I could make jokes about being not patient, and pretty much the weaknesses in my life across the board stem from being impatient, and I could make it funny. But to have no patience is really not a joke. It's actually a handicap. And I'm grateful to the journey of learning about the patience and where it comes from and how to fine tune it. And I think for me, when milestones along the way, I had big ones right out of the gate. I ended up with an agent at the first conference I went to, which was the first time I poked my head up out of the water as a writer. I hadn't even actually done more than read books for craft help. Like I hadn't even talked with anybody or worked with anybody, which isn't what I would recommend but for me, I was afraid of learning from somebody who wasn't excellent. I wanted to learn from somebody who was going to end up where I wanted to go rather than a mom and pop situation where they were just giving you good advice, but you were chasing your own tail kind of.
And you
So
did go to conferences too.
that was where it happened, but I went to conference. So my first conference was when I got some confirmation, but then that was year one. And it took me 9 years to get to my contract. So that patience game, especially when I got to the point where had an agent and I'm headed out on proposal. Well, those proposal processes, they take years. They don't go fast. And so you're waiting on someone else's, like I had to figure out how to have incentive and be excited and be encouraged without the carrot and the dangling fruit being in someone else's hands and in someone else's plate. And so that took me a little bit. I had a nice, healthy walk with hope deferred. Hope deferred makes the heart sick is a quote, but it says when dreams come true, it's the tree of life. And that's really was a big deal for me, was that hope deferred and figuring out you really have to know why you're doing it and what the point is. And if it's all about the end, the final accomplishment can't be what it's all about, or else you don't have enough grit to make it stick for the stuff in between.
Right.
Because it's a long
you have
ways.
to have a passion for
Yeah.
it. A lot of new writers think, oh, I'll just write a story and send it off and get it published. And it takes years of learning, and the writing, it's hard. It's not easy.
Right.
And the path to get there, there's so many things you have to learn. And so you have to be in it for the long haul, and you have to really love it.
But you can be tenacious. You can be tenacious and you can accelerate your own growth by putting more time towards it. But, in my head, I would think a first draft was a rough draft, edit it once and you're good to go. Like that was my mindset. And now I know that is not even a final rough draft, like you got lots to go before you're even know, and then even understanding the industry and understanding the layers. I mean, there's just a lot to learn. When I got my agent, the first thing she said to me was, she says, you're all excited because I actually landed an agent at that first conference that I went to. So I started writing. I got serious in May of 2012. I wrote my first serious book. So I have a book that won't see the light of day, but I wrote my first serious book from this at the beginning of the kids' school year, September to January. And then on January, I was like, okay, I got this book. Now what do I do? So that's when I figured out to go to a conference, and I went to my local conference the following summer. And at that summer conference, I got a little attention from a couple of bigger publishing houses. So that made it so the agents were paying attention, and the agents, because they knew each other, were paying attention. It got a little competitive between them, I think, maybe a little bit. In a good way for me. And I had an agent actually ask me to be their client at that first conference, the first thing. Like, that's so shocking. Like, it doesn't happen that way.
That's not normal. Yeah.
No. But I didn't even know that. Like, I didn't even know what the job of an agent was, or an acquisitions editor. I didn't know any of that. And but what she told me, knowing that I was green, she basically said, you're expecting me to open all these doors for you. You're expecting me to see all this future for you through published future. And she said, but the truth is that there's an unwritten expectation from me to you. And that is that you're going to take on learning this industry and learning the craft. And she says, and that usually takes between 5 and 10 years. And she was spot on. And the other piece of advice she gave me at that same exact moment, which was super helpful to me, is she said, I was like, well, I wrote this book and they're interested, they like it. How do I repeat that? How do I know what they like? Like, how do I know? And she said, did you like what you wrote? And I'm like, well, yeah, I like what I write. And she said, then keep writing what you like, which is huge, because if you're going to spend days and days and hours and years doing it, make sure it's something you like. So if people are at the beginning and they're picking between 2 genres or 2 brands or 2 different, paths, like they could go completely different directions, pick the one that you really enjoy the most, because that's the one that you're going to spend a lot of time in there, doing it.
Yeah.
So that was good advice for me, to do what you like, find the place that makes joy happen.